What I got, like I said, what I got from the story
Yeah.
is this guy here, his dad. He's right. He's talking about his dad,
Right.
Jack.
Right.
His dad. He's including his dad's story, right?
Right.
His own family story and his dad's story, right? His dad picked out the cover for this.
Yeah.
His dad is not Abraham Lincoln, obviously,
No.
right? The guy who wrote this is the son, Mark or Levin, right? He's talking about his dad, Jack. His dad lived during the Great Depression, very poor. His father before him was very, very poor, poor family. So the idea of what I'm getting from the story, like I was telling you before I turned my camera on, is this guy is writing about his dad's life. He's writing it, and he's talking about his dad's life and his own family's life, and why that the Gettysburg Address story by Abraham Lincoln. Well, he spoke on the battlefield of the Civil War. But like you told me, it's supposed to be the greatest speech ever on the battlefield. Ever. Okay. Well, obviously, these first pages is about this guy, his dad's, and his family. Right. And what better way to get your dad's life known, who nobody probably really knows your dad. You know what I'm saying? And are you? But he's talking about what inspired his father of some guy. They're doing like a reunion for military people. Like some guy had a Union Army suit on, another guy had a Vietnam suit on, or something like that, right? And right, Vietnam or something like that, or World War II. That's right, World War I and World War II uniforms, right? This is during I think around Vietnam, the Great Depression, and shit like that. Am I right? Or could be wrong?
No, it would have been right before World War II.
Well, World War II, okay. He's talking about World War I uniforms, okay. He's talking about why the guy in the Union Army uniform from Civil War, why he stood out to his father, right? He's writing about his dad, right? And by his dad, why the Union Army guy stood out to him so much drew him to Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. So all these pages here is about this guy, about him and his dad and his family during the Great Depression. And what better way to get your family known and your father before him by adding your own family story, who's writing this book, to the Gettysburg Address. Because everybody wants to grab the Gettysburg Address and know what Abraham Lincoln said. You know what I'm saying? His dad and his family is the one that picked out the cover. So that's what I've got so far.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a great way to get known in life. Is he's adding his own family's life, and his dad picked the cover out. His son is the one writing it, and why the Gettysburg Address story stood so much to his dad. So these were over the years his dad talked to him. So he's mentioning and talking about his father. But in the meantime, the whole world gets to know about his dad because everybody grabs Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address book. That's a great way to get your own family out there.
That's true.
And why this story stood out so much to his father. Is what I'm getting. That's how far I got. Cool, huh?
Yeah.
I read this book. It's pretty good. I'm done reading the book now. I read all this. So I'm already done now. So now I'm reading the Gettysburg Address. And the guy who wrote this book, inspired by his father, there's been many copies of the Gettysburg Address throughout the years. Okay, the guy who wrote this book, his father was inspired by the Gettysburg Address message by Abraham Lincoln. And the reason why he was inspired by it, not that his dad was alive during the Gettysburg Address speech, but they did like a ceremonies for, Spanish War. There's wars before wars and the Civil War. They're doing a reenactment. And a guy who stood out to this guy's father, Jack, a guy who stood out to his father. This guy here, okay, Jack. His father, Jack. His father, he was inspired by that's his father, Mark. Jack is the son. Philadelphia. He was inspired by the Gettysburg Address because his father was inspired by the Gettysburg Address. His father would tell him about the Gettysburg Address message. And the reason why he wrote this book of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address in loving memory of his father, Mark, was because a Union soldier, a reenactment of a Union soldier's uniform stood out to his father. His father was in carpentry, upholstery. He was a cartoonist. So he picked all the images of the Gettysburg Address. He had the pictures, the actual pictures re-edited, recolorized. His father picked out the cover for this book. There's been many copies of the Gettysburg Address. The one used in this particular book is the Baltimore versions of the Gettysburg Address. There's been 5 versions of the Gettysburg Address, which considered one bliss, 2 bliss, 3 bliss, 4 bliss, and so on and so forth. 5 bliss, right? That's what they called it back then. So the Gettysburg Address that's been used for this particular book about this man's father and his family and his brothers and his family, that's also added. Now, see, like now we get, like for example, I already read all these pages, so I'll sum it all up at the end. Okay. To the words of the Gettysburg Address, it is my hope that the stark realism of these pictures with Lincoln's words will give readers a sense of intimacy with the events of which Lincoln spoke at Gettysburg. All right. Abraham Lincoln Gettysburg Address, illustrated. Okay, now, the whole speech of Abraham Lincoln and what he said that day on the battlefield of the Civil War. See, our fathers brought forth upon this continent. See, and it shows pictures of our forefathers, like right here. July 4th, 1776, about how his father has said it's very important to be grateful that you're an American. And this is why. Obviously, Abraham Lincoln wasn't alive in this time. Okay, it's George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, our fathers brought forth. That's what Abraham Lincoln spoke at Gettysburg. Our fathers brought forth upon this continent. Okay, now, throughout everything he said in his speech, conceived in liberty, dedicated to the proposing that all men are created equal. See, and it has in Congress, July 4th, 1776. That's what our forefathers had wrote. So everything Abraham Lincoln says is in each cartoonist of pictures of the Civil War, of what was written and drawn by cartoonists back in those times, and he just had it like upgraded. It's that picture. It just looks better now, redone. Testing whether this nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. So it's like everything he said in his speech is on each page. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that nation might live. See, everything he said, everything Abraham Lincoln said in his speech, the Gettysburg Address, is on each page, and on each page it shows people's headstones and people who died in the Civil War, all Americans who died in the Civil War, North and South. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Everything Abraham Lincoln said on each page. But in a larger sense, we cannot we cannot concentrate, we cannot hollow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have concentrated it far above our poor power to add or direct. See, so everything he said. So you kind of get the idea. His whole speech is on each page, like every word broken down. It was Robert E. Lee, Confederate Armies, Ulysses Grant, Union Army, second edition. So Lee surrenders. Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, goodwill among men. So that we here highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain. Pretty good book. That's him and his dad right here. He wrote the story to honor his father and his brothers as well. That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nations, wounds to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his window and his to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and a lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. And that this government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Praise to be an American. Things that our forefathers wrote. See, pictures, credits. That's awesome. It's his whole speech. So his speech was broken down in each picture. I like that. This is a good book. I read the whole book. I told my brother I'd be finished with it tonight. It's a moral to sum it all up. It's a story about it. It's about this guy wrote it. This Mark Levin wrote it in honor of his father, who was inspired by the Gettysburg Address. A Union reenactment soldier, a guy wearing the Union Army uniform, and in a ceremony, stood out to his father, Jack. The son is Mark. Jack's the father. So to honor his dad, because his dad was inspired by Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, the dad was inspired and had a remarkable life. He wanted to honor his dad by him writing for his dad about why the Gettysburg Address stood out so much to him. So in honoring and rewriting Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, he's also honoring his father's life and telling a little bit of his father's story as well, and his brothers and his brother Doug and all that. That's awesome. What a way to get your father known, by also rewriting the Gettysburg Address. And there was this version of the Gettysburg Address, because there's been 5 different versions, which are considered Bliss 1, Bliss 2, Bliss 3, Bliss 4. Anyway, this is the Baltimore version. It says it in here. This is what it's considered the most authentic Gettysburg Address written by Abraham Lincoln, because it has Abraham Lincoln's signature, and it's the Baltimore. It's considered the Baltimore version. There's a Virginia version, the Baltimore version, so on and so forth. Now I'm going to read this book. I bought this book at Dollar General. It's like a dollar store, Dollar General, for $5. And my brother, me and Daniel got my brother a gift, Shannon, George Washington's Mount Vernon book that we got at Virginia, at George Washington's Mount Vernon, when we went to Virginia, when we went to Washington, D.C. for UFC Freedom 250. So me and Daniel got that book for Shannon as a gift. That book that I gave my brother, George Washington's Mount Vernon, that came directly from Mount Vernon, from George Washington's house. So now I got this book I bought at the Dollar General out here in Alabama for $5. So I'm going to read this next. But not right now. I'm going to read it next. Proud to be an American. And we got this book. After I get done reading this, yeah, that's good. This book this book was at the dollar store in Alabama, Dollar General, for $5.
Yep.
I'm gonna read this next. You got to read that book. That book, you could probably read that book in 1 second. It's just mainly that Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address is more about his father's life and his family. The guy who wrote that book, and he just re-edited and recopied Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. So it's just in every picture of Civil War has Abraham Lincoln's speech over the pictures. So every time you turn a page, it's another part of the speech. That's pretty dope. The book is mainly about this guy and his dad and why Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address stood out to his father, Jack.
Yeah.
There's Mark and Jack. Mark's the son and Jack's the father.
Right.
But yeah, this book right here is good dope for only $5. I mean, and we got this from because this was inherited to us by our friend Cowboy Dave, who passed away. The History of Christianity. I was in the mood of reading, man. That's gonna be hard to read.
That's Luther, Martin Luther.
That's him.
That's
What?
That's a Lutheran guy.
You just talking about it with moms yesterday here. Mm-hmm. You just brought that up here. You just brought that up yesterday, dude. Yeah, the more they follow.
I bet you read what that little thing.
He said they follow more of the Lutheran law, like Martin Luther, the Lutherans, right?
Yeah, basically like Lutheran. To me, Lutheran is the same thing as Catholic, but without all the extras.
Yeah, but look though, bro. All I did was open it like this, and it's him. Wow, dude! And you were talking about him yesterday.
Yeah, that's Martin Luther.
You even knew it was him.
That's the original. Yeah.
Wow, dude. It's time to get some knowledge. Look at this. Cowboy Dave. Now, we got to cherish this. I got to write in here. This book belonged to Cowboy Dave. Cowboy Robinson. Yep. Yeah? And I got to put his birth year and his death year on there. Yeah?
Right.
Because we got to cherish it.
Lutheran.
It's Cowboys,
Lutheran.
Cowboys jacket and his hat still at Linda's house.
Right. Lutheran is just, it's like Catholic without all the extras.